Dear Prime Minister, dear Mario, you wrote that book about democracy in Europe with Sylvie Goulard at a time when most of the discussions are actually still on urgency, still on policies, rather than on democracy and institutions, on high politics. So why did you choose at this particular moment in time to have a reflection on democracy in Europe?
Well, because we saw coming, observing Europe from different angles. Sylvie Goulard was then, as she is now, a member of the European Parliament, and I had been a commissioner and could not imagine becoming Prime Minister after that. We saw the real political issues coming up, in particular the political issues of the coexistence between time-honored democracies at the national level and the emerging need for more democracy at the EU level. All this was compounded by the financial crisis in the Eurozone, which forced, in a sense, a higher degree of concentration of policy decisions at the EU level. And so this required, I think, imposed a reflection on how to make all this compatible. The role of the national parliaments, the role of the European Parliament, and also, and this is really political, the way in which national leaders and the European institutions have a public dialogue between each other. Because many of the problems about the perceptions in citizens' minds about the European Union depend on the language held by national leaders, often blaming Europe for decisions they take together in Brussels.
The response to this crisis has been very much to strengthen the watchdog role of the European institution, of the Commission in particular, making sure that sanction can go through almost automatically. And at the same time, the response from the point of view of assistance has been to put member states much more in control of assistance, because in the end the money comes from the member states. It doesn't come from the EU budget. So I mean, those two responses, how can you reconcile them with your concerns about more democracy in Europe?
I think this requires also, not only, but also a forward-looking reconsideration of the budget of the EU, because everything could be more easily reconcilable if we had wider forms of assistance to member states out of EU money. On the other hand, the reinforcement of the Commission as a watchdog is, in my view, for sure a good direction, a movement in the good direction, but in turn probably requires a wider, more open debate in the European Parliament about EU policies, but also as a place for EU-wide public debate on some national policies. All this is unsettled, but Sylvie Goulard and I tried to identify a map of the problems.
As you know, Bruegel, as an economic policy think tank, has contributed to a number of those debates on the banking union, on the Eurozone budget. Now, the kind of approach you're developing in the book suggests that the high politics dimension should not be forgotten, and the institutional dimension also matters considerably. So what does it mean for a think tank like us? Should we be more participating in this type of debate, or should we stick to really economic policy issues?
The economic policy dimension, of course, is key, but Bruegel already in the last few years has also been very attentive to, say, the political economy of reforms. perhaps one could suggest applying more political economy approaches to the policy issues of integration. This, I think, could be helpful, and I think Bruegel and you, Jean, and André were among the very first ones to spell out that the problems of crisis management in the EU stem from the fact that the EU was constructed for good weather. And so I think you are well placed, Bruegel is well placed to develop now also the political economy and political dimension of handling an integrated system.
Thank you very much for this conversation.
Thank you, Jean, for hosting this debate.